In the bustling city of Benin, nestled near the ever-busy Ring Road, was a narrow street known for two things: its roadside food vendors and a string of tiny shops selling second-hand clothes, okrika. And somewhere in the middle of it all was Amarachi Okonkwo, Mama Tari, even though she wasn't old enough for the title. At just 28, Amarachi Okonkwo was a single mother with a tired smile and worn slippers, who spent her days calling out to uninterested passers-by, seated on a worn stool beside a hanger of faded second-hand clothes. She tied her headscarf tighter as the wind tried to undo it. Her eyes, which had sunk from worry and nights without sleep, scanned through the road for customers. Sister, see fine jeans bros, original Zara day here for just 1.5. But no one ever stopped. None came. A few flies buzzed around her son's head as he slept on a thin mat behind her table. Tari, her only source of joy, her reason for living. He was 6 and already knew how to go to sleep hungry without complaint. God, I beg, let me just sell 2 jeans today, just 2. But her prayers got swallowed by the honking of danfo buses. By 8 p.m., she packed the unsold items back into her sack, legs aching from hours of standing. As she balanced the bundle on her head, she wondered if Chief Eromosele, her landlord, would allow her another week of delay. The next day brought no miracles. At sunset, she was preparing to leave. She noticed her son staring wide-eyed at someone across the street. A woman, a goddess, tall, striking, skin as dark as coal, and braids dyed blood red. She wore a golden outfit that shimmered like it was alive, and on her arms, ivory bangles that clinked softly. She crossed over, ignoring the stairs, and stood right before Amarachi. "Is this your stand?" she asked. Amarachi nodded, confused. The woman smiled slowly and said, "Your hands are gifted, but they lack power." She opened her purse and handed Amarachi a black card. No text except for a gold embroidery shaped like a needle and thread. Amarachi held it, confused. The woman said, "Midnight, the old textile warehouse, come alone." And just like that, she disappeared around the bend, leaving behind the faint scent of rosewood and blood. Amarachi went home and thought about this all night long. She couldn't even sleep at all. She kept asking herself whether to go to the location the goddess gave her or not. She finally made her decision. Of course, she was going to go for it. It won't hurt to try, she said to herself. Amarachi left Tari with her neighbor, Mama Ebo, and walked barefoot to the warehouse. Inside, dozens of candles formed a perfect circle, and in the center stood the goddess. "Your suffering can end tonight," she said, "but you must pay a price." Amarachi stammered and asked, What kind of price?" "Nothing that you miss, just shadows," said the goddess, and from a nearby trunk, she pulled out a sewing machine unlike any Amarachi had seen. Its frame looked carved from bone. The needle was golden, sharp, humming softly. She handed Amarachi a bolt of deep red silk and said, "Go ahead and sew. Sew with your sweat, with your want." As she began sewing, her fingers moved not by her will, but by some ancient rhythm. The fabric shimmered, folding into perfect cuts. Each stitch felt like it cost her something: memories, breath, time. When she finished, the woman clapped once. The candle flames turned blue and she said, "Welcome to Eleganza. You will thrive, but never betray the stitch." Amarachi blacked out. She was so terrified that she fainted. 2 months later, Eleganza Couture opened on Erungbunse Street. People couldn't believe it. Marble floors, gold hangers, spotlights on velvet displays. And in the center stood Amarachi, no longer hungry, no longer desperate. Her skin glowed. Her hair was braided in long twists laced with silk, and she walked with the elegance of a queen. And there were the mannequins, too lifelike, too still. Each wore a masterpiece, clothing so perfect that it made women weep and men gape. The mannequins stood with human poise, shoulders relaxed, fingers parted, heads tilted slightly like they were listening. Imported, Amarachi told curious visitors and customers who asked where she got the mannequins from. But the whispers began. It began with whispers. All of a sudden, a beggar just disappeared from the junction by Igun Street. Then, an Okada rider who always parked near the boutique also vanished. No one cared at first, but every time someone went missing, a new mannequin appeared in Eleganza Couture, posing delicately behind the glass, dressed in a fresh luxury piece. And not just posed, frozen mid-motion, like they'd been interrupted in life. One wore a wide-brimmed hat and Ankara jacket. Another had scar-like ridges round its neck, just like the beggar had. Someone muttered, "That mannequin's hands. It looks just like Musa the meat sellers." People started looking much longer, noticing the faint tear tracks on the mannequin's cheeks. Their slightly parted lips, always as if whispering. Amarachi denied everything. "Please, it's art, imported from Italy," she laughed while responding to their endless questions. But in her dreams, the mannequins moved. A few months after, Eleganza opened its second branch in Abuja, and Madame A, as she was now called, became a name in elite fashion circles. The grand opening was called the Silent Parade. She arranged for a float. 10 mannequins in designer clothes were driven through the streets of Wuse, seated upright in gold chairs. Thousands watched. Phones captured everything. People clapped, shouted in admiration. But one woman, an old prophetess, screamed, "These are not mannequins. These are souls. They are souls." She collapsed on the pavement. That same night, she was found dead, mouth agape and body twisted like a marionette. The next morning, another mannequin appeared in Eleganza's Abuja branch, dressed in white lace, barefoot. While in Benin, one woman had had enough. Ngozi, a former neighbor of Amarachi, once sold second-hand wrappers beside her. She watched Amarachi's rise with suspicion. When her younger brother Chike disappeared after applying for a tailoring job at Eleganza, Ngozi swore revenge. She waited, she watched. One night, she followed the boutique manager after closing. She carried a heavy box to the back alley and didn't come out with it. When the manager left, Ngozi opened it. Inside were clothes soaked in blood and a necklace Chike never took off. The next morning, she confronted Amarachi at the boutique. "Amarachi, you are not sewing fashion, you are sewing people," Ngozi said angrily. Amarachi's gaze did not even flicker. Leave this place, Ngozi. I'm warning you. Leave this place while you still can. Ngozi ran straight to the police to file a report. But by nightfall, she too was gone. Tari was now 10. He had always been quiet and observant. One night, curious about the store's special room, he waited until his mother left for a meeting and crept inside. Beneath a rug in the storage room, he found a trapdoor. It led to a cold basement. There were rows and rows of mannequins, undressed, arms slightly raised, standing in complete darkness. Some had tear stains, others looked like they were about to scream. Then one mannequin, a male one, no older than him, moved his eyes. Tari screamed. He ran to his mother crying, "Mommy, mommy, mommy, they are alive. You said they were just dummies." Amarachi knelt and cupped his face. "Tari, listen to me. They are not alive anymore, and they were not good people." Tari shook his head and said, "But what if they had children like me?" Her eyes darkened. For a moment, her voice trembled, and she replied, "Then their children will grow strong, just like you. Don't ever come down here again, and you must never tell anyone what you just saw here." Amarachi began to feel it, the unraveling. Every stitch she made felt heavier. Her sewing machine, the one from the ritual, began whispering when she touched it. Names. Names she didn't recognize, and the names she did. At night, the mannequins stood closer to her bed in dreams. In mirrors, they blinked. One night, she saw her own reflection smile when she wasn't even smiling. Even her boutique started smelling strange. Clove, incense, and rot. Customers began returning clothes, claiming they gave nightmares. Still, the Eleganza society demanded expansion. The goddess returned. "You are behind on your offering," she told Amarachi. "Please, I've given enough. How much more do you need?" Amarachi snapped. The woman tilted her head and answered, "The needle doesn't stop until the tailor is finished." That night, 3 new mannequins appeared in her store, but Amarachi hadn't taken anyone. A few weeks later, an accidental spark from faulty wiring lit up the boutique's storage room. Firefighters arrived quickly. The flames were controlled, but what they found froze them. In the basement, among the mannequins, they heard someone moaning. 2 mannequins still had warm bodies. One blinked as a firefighter reached for it, tears sliding down its waxy cheeks. The authorities were alerted immediately. However, Amarachi fled, but not with Tari. The news broke. Benin boutique owner wanted for alleged human preservation and ritual killings. Photos of Eleganza's mannequins circulated. Forensics revealed traces of blood and preserved skin under synthetic layers. Upon investigations, a secret chamber in Eleganza's Abuja branch held a journal. Inside were notes in Amarachi's handwriting. Chike, too curious. Ngozi, wouldn't stop talking. Beggar woman, easy. Pastor's wife, slow. Obina, betrayed me. These were her victims. People wept and protested. And still, none could explain how the mannequins moved. Tari was placed in protective custody, but he never spoke again. Not about his mother, not about the mannequins. All he did was draw. sketch after sketch of people trapped behind glass. That was all he drew. Months passed. Eleganza's stores were sealed, locked, forgotten. Until one day, at the corner of a Kenwan road, a new boutique opened. No one knew who owned it, but the glass was tinted. The mannequins stood poised in silent elegance. People flocked to see the designs, breathtaking as always. But there were no tailors, no clerks, just a young boy at the front desk. Tari. He smiled faintly and said, "Welcome to Eleganza." Meanwhile, somewhere in an unknown chamber, a red-haired goddess stitches a golden thread into an empty coat. She hums an old tune. Around her are mannequins, some crying, some smiling, all still. She whispers into the air, "The stitch must continue. The boutique must grow. Eleganza never closes."